Hey everyone, for trichomes.com, I'm Ashley Manning, and this is Careers in Cannabis. On this show, we sit down with staffing agencies, cannabis companies, and other industry professionals to discuss employment opportunities in the burgeoning cannabis industry. The cannabis industry jobs are booming, and being deemed essential has made it a safe haven for those who were laid off during the pandemic. Those who went from hospitality into cannabis are even saying that they will stay in the cannabis industry and not return to their former job. And just in the past few months, more states have legalized, which means the staffing demand will be increasing. If you've been considering a new career, or more specifically a career in cannabis, then this is the episode for you. Today's guest has been a recruiter for over 20 years, and he's founded 2 staffing agencies and is currently seeking to place immediate candidates in the cannabis industry. On this episode, we talk with Josh Cartagenova, the founder of the nationwide cannabis and hemp recruitment firm Calyx Staffing. Hey Josh, welcome to the show.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much for the time.
It's great to have you here. I know we've had you as a guest last year, and that was right when the pandemic started, and now we're kind of going back to a semi-normal life. So I'm excited to talk to you about the opportunity, maybe what has changed from the last time you were on the show to, a year later. But for those who missed that previous episode, I'd love for you to start off with sharing a little bit about Calyx Staffing, how long you've been staffing the cannabis industry, and why you got into staffing the cannabis industry specifically.
Well, that's a great way to start, actually. We started Calyx Staffing is a staffing organization for the cannabis and hemp industry, and we work nationwide. And it was started back in 2018. And I'm an entrepreneur. I have another staffing company called Therapy Source, which I've had for the past 20 years, which provides therapists to schools. So I've been running that, and as a professional in the staffing industry, I saw the growth of cannabis, no pun intended, with the need of additional help and C-levels and managers in formulating, these new companies. As new licenses started to develop and states started to open up their doors to cannabis, I saw a huge need. And hence, being the entrepreneur I am, that's why over 2 years ago I started Calyx Staffing.
That's so 2018. What was the first state that you fulfilled a job in? Because 2018 things were sort of really starting to ramp up.
The first one that we was actually in Massachusetts. And Massachusetts opened up for medicinal as also recreational as well. And currently, the East Coast is like the new West Coast now. Jersey just opened up, and also New York. So typically what happens is Pennsylvania will start to open up, and all these East Coast. And what we're seeing now is a lot of our West Coast clients are either expanding to East Coast, but also the talent is very interested in going over to the East Coast as well. So a lot of our placements are people that we're picking up from West Coast and moving over to East Coast at this point.
Yeah, it's you can take that industry knowledge that you've learned in these states and help the newer states come on board. There's I have to say there's much different work ethic between East Coast and West Coast for sure. I don't know if that's something you've ever noticed, but there's just a different way. I've seen. I'm from the East Coast, and when I moved out here, it was a little bit of a transition, but I feel coming from the West Coast to the East Coast could be interesting as well. I don't know if that you even want to put your opinion on that, but it might take some time for people to get used to.
Yeah, well, listen, the East versus West is a whole different cultural feel, on the East Coast, listen, we're highly metropolitan cities. You got New York, you got Philadelphia, you got the starting of America on the East Coast. So, I think generally we're probably a little faster moving. We are definitely want what we want. It is a whole different feel. And the West Coast, listen, whenever I get down to California area, I love that kind of feel and culture that you guys have over there.
Yeah, culture is important also into the cannabis industry. Where is Calyx Staffing headquartered?
We're right outside of Philadelphia, and
Okay.
but we work nationwide. And being that you can be remote and you can still contact your candidates, you don't need offices all throughout the United States. And so this is obviously where I live, and my team lives here. So it's good centered, and obviously with the East Coast development, it helps as well.
100% right
Yeah.
there. And it's I think the East Coast is just going to take off way faster than the West Coast, and it seems obvious it would go in that direction. Roughly, do you know how many people you've currently placed into cannabis specific jobs since you've started?
That's an interesting question.
You lost track.
Well, listen, the idea here is we really need to focus on the client's need at this point. The number of people, we've done just many over the number of years that we've been in business. We're a specialist in this area. And what I found out when I started developing the company is that many of the other competition in this space were started by people that were not staffing professionals. So my team is of staffing professionals, people with multiple years of staffing. Now, to people that may not be in the staffing world or staffing industry, that might not mean much. But there is a lot to say about when you're able to talk to an individual from staffing, because there's a certain type of insight that we have. I've been staffing for over 20 years and running these two companies. So in interviewing candidates, you understand that you're looking at a resume, which is only a marketing piece for the individual. So it's up to the individual with that staffing experience to be able to dive deeper and ask the open-ended questions, and not the yes and no questions. And these open-ended questions really start to highlight areas of their pros and what I call AFIs, areas for improvement. And that's what you're able to take back and at least present to the client and let them know that Johnny has these particular pros and these things that I think may work with you, or you may have to develop. But it's being in this type of industry, not just the cannabis industry, but the staffing industry, and having this knowledge set, which makes us successful. And that's a really important part, because that's really one of the main reasons why I decided to start this second company, is because of the fact that much of my competition were not staffing professionals. And that was 2 years ago. And so now I see, as the industry is developing, Calyx Staffing is actually one of these pioneers in this area. There's only a few companies actually started. But now, over the past 2 years, I've seen many other organizations and staffing organizations starting to get into this field. And so that's comforting, because the idea here is we're only here to help the industry grow. And we want to make sure that people that we place in these organizations are long-term employees. And it's about professionals that understand staffing that are able to make that possible.
Makes sense. Well, I'm excited for the growth of Calyx Staffing over the years, being an OG on the East Coast with staffing. So let's shift gears and talk about what opportunities you currently have available at Calyx.
A lot of our opportunities are located right on our website, which is calyxstaffing.com, CALYX staffing.com, and they change often. We have many different types of positions. We have a chief science officer in the North Carolina area. And you need obviously a science background and understanding lab and techniques and strains. And that's a very exciting kind of C-level position. Always get sales. Sales positions are just because many of our clients are in their infancy. Now, infancy to the fact that they have their funding, they maybe started their grow, they have product to sell, and now they have to sell it. So, with the idea of sales, from sales managers to sales representatives to directors of sales to VPs, that's a big push because the market itself is highly competitive. And as each of these MSOs start to get more particular licenses, and even if you're not an MSO, and you're a small organization that seems to have a license from the state, the need and the competition is fierce, and it's only going to get more fierce. And what's been happening over the past couple of years, as you've probably seen, Ashley, is competition is actually buying these licensing. There was a case in point. I have a friend that about 3 years ago got a license in Pennsylvania area, and they were bought out by GTI, Green Thumb Industries, even before they even opened. So these licenses are extremely valuable. And what's happening is some states like Oregon and some other states have put too many licenses into the marketplace, which obviously makes it less valuable. So you have other particular markets where, depending on how they're going to provide these licenses or number of licenses that they're going to provide in the state, that's determining their value in that particular state. So at the end of the day, the main point is that there's going, just like the internet based in the late 1990s, there was a huge of those .coms. You're going to have the organizations that just go out of business. You'll have the organizations that will get gobbled up or acquired. And there'll be eventually these number of large players, like the Tilrays of the world and, the Canopies of the world. These are the large organizations that are going to be highly successful as this industry starts to develop. So it's a very exciting time in this industry.
Absolutely. I'd like to touch upon the sales aspect of things because, yes, it's competitive. And we mentioned earlier about people moving from the West Coast to the East Coast. Well, me, if I were a recruiter, I'm not, but, I would be thinking I want salespeople that already have a book of contacts. Do you personally feel that if someone doesn't have contacts and they're a great salesperson and they've shown you their quotas that they've met in other industries, do you think that actually parlays into cannabis sales?
If I understand your question right, you're talking is there a preference for individuals that are already in the industry? Is that what you're asking?
Someone who does not have industry experience, but they've shown that they are great salespeople.
Right. What I'm finding out here in this industry is that you do have certain clients that do prefer. However, a lot of our clients actually want to just hire incredible salespeople, because it's just like any type of, if you decided to go work with IBM, okay, and you were a sales rep for IBM and you were a stellar sales or individual, okay, you would have to learn that product anyway. Okay, so it's about how well you're able to develop relationships and what your past has been. What has your been success rate in the past? And these are the questions that we ask in part of our interview process. We utilize we use a theory called BAT, which behavioral actions and techniques. So we take our candidates through this particular level of understanding to dive deep and find exactly about their core strengths. I always recommend that we do not focus strictly on people from the cannabis industry. Lot of times when you're getting people industry to industry, there's always benefits to that. But there's also benefits of just getting an incredible salesperson that can learn the products, develop the relationships, and be stellar, even more stellar than the individual that may have the contacts, okay? Because you don't know exactly what you're going to unwrap at that point. And this also promotes the growth of the industry, which is what we're all trying to do here. You know, you with you know, the podcast and the other things that Trichomes does, and you know, Calyx Staffing, with the idea of just expanding it with what the best type of candidates that we can find in the marketplace. So to answer your question a
Right.
long, verbose way, we have clients on both sides, and we try to inform our clients of the benefits of let's keep it open. We'll look for people that are in the industry, and we'll look for people that are outside the industry, and you'll be able to make some determination on what's best for your culture, what's best for your organization, what's best for your growth plans.
Yeah. I think it would be hard to, if I was hiring, to pick between which person, the qualified salesperson with no experience or the person who has a very large Rolodex of buyers and relationships in the industry. It would be hard to differentiate between the two. But like you said, the growth of the industry is the overall mission. And by bringing people outside of the industry in, we're growing it. So are you able to share a few other jobs that you have? I'd like for our listeners to hear some of the opportunities.
Yeah, well, we have a director of cultivation in the Boston area. There seems to be, because of these new licenses and new grows, that we're getting a lot of director of cultivation type positions coming through.
Makes
yes,
sense.
that's
Comes first.
It's an exciting, because I know this client is developing another grow in Massachusetts, and expanding fast. Really, a lot of our clients are expanding rather fast, and they're open to individuals for remote. For that are in the West, or in a particular cannabis-like state, that they can bring the information over, and that's very exciting position. A lot of our positions are, what we really focus on is really from our entry-level managers and sales positions all the way up to C levels. We also get involved with the licensing process. And the licensing process is a very interesting kind of function here for us, because part of the license, depending on the state, they require to have their directors and C levels listed on the application. And so we work with some licensing organizations that we fulfill that entire license, and we provide the people, and if they get their license, then at that point, then they have the option of taking that job or not. It's a very interesting type of process, but we really enjoy that kind of level where we're able to fulfill and find that entire C level and director level, and for these companies, and we get to see just how the license starts and develops and then comes to fruition. It's exciting stuff.
That I could imagine that could be, finding a C-level executive when you have a vision, in the license, if you're waiting on your license, getting your license, selling an executive, hey, we want you as our CEO or VP, and here's what you're going to do, and you're selling them on a vision. Is that a difficult sale as a recruiter?
Well, you know what? Yes and no, because part of that process is there's no guarantee of a license. So
right.
What the individual is getting at that point is they're getting an opportunity, and the opportunity that may come, a month down, 2 months down the line once they're been approved. If they haven't been approved, there's no harm at this point. But if they get approved, they have that option. So that company would go to, that's the C level that we've placed there, and say, okay, great, we got our license. You want to come on board, and at that point, what it does for the candidate is it gives them opportunities. So whether they're waiting for a job, or they're between jobs, or they're at a current situation that they don't see as a huge benefit, because a lot of these new companies will give you, stock options or some type of additional benefits that maybe some of the other organizations won't give you. And that's developing rather fast on the benefit side as well. And so getting individuals and qualified individuals for the licenses we enjoy it, because it's kind of like a situation where, yes, this could be a job and it might not be a job. But if this came to be, and this is the information about the organization, would this be of interest? And so we still go through our qualification process and and they go through the interview process and everything else like a traditional a staffing process. But they have a choice, and that choice, think about it, if you had that choice of being a director of marketing in 2 months and you're currently at a job, now you have that ability. And to listen, at the end of the day, it's more choices is the better. So it is a good and fun type of placement for us.
Agree. To touch on the director of cultivation position, is there cannabis experience required in order to be a director of cultivation?
When it's something as technical as director of cultivation, sales position's a little bit different, but the more science you get into a position, there is a leading kind of requirement for someone who's done a grow. So if you wanted to become a director of cultivation, you'd have to start as a cultivator and come to assistant cultivation manager and move your way up through. So, it's not like we have never placed someone that was a cultivator of like vegetables or what have you and put them directly into cannabis. Now, the learning aspect of that and that difference, from what I hear, is not that significant. It's because you're still going to get, whether you're cultivating vegetables or you're cultivating cannabis, you're still going to get your molds, you still get your insects, you still get these certain things that eat that or can cause damage. So it's about learning. But to answer your kind of question here is through my experience or Calyx experience, most of the placements that we've made for that level have been with previous cannabis experience.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Or you can pair, someone who's been a director of cultivation for, other fruits and vegetables, and pair them with a fantastic cultivator who can just teach them the process of what they need to be doing. So, and then that cultivator can go on to the next facility to grow and teach that person. And I think the cultivator is the most important person in this industry, combined with everyone else as well. But I think cultivation, because it starts there, and everything, you can't have anything else without the plant. So
right. Well, you have strains development, and it's
seeds.
It's highly technical, exciting. It's not in my wheelhouse, but for the directors of cultivation, it's a very obviously important role, because that's your main individual that's going to really determine the potency and all the main important aspects of the plant, so it'd be ready for sale.
Right. I started my career in cannabis as a cultivation intern, and I don't see that anywhere. I don't know if I got lucky. I'm not sure if it was who I knew, but I don't see that anywhere. Do you see that happening anywhere?
A cultivation intern?
Yeah.
No, we typically don't get those the internship. But I'm sure there's probably a lot because of all the schools, the cannabis schools that are out there, and just cannabis programs. If you take a look at some of the universities, they're starting these cannabis programs. I know many schools in New Jersey are at this point, and then you have your traditional cannabis schools, in Ohio, and they're throughout. A lot of it's online, or you can actually, uh, you know, go there. But
Yeah.
with this type of industry of how it's moving and transferring and developing, I know Syracuse University just opened up a program as well. And so more and more colleges are, and the idea of cannabis development and the industry itself, it's really an amazing uh, start of an industry because if you think about, and I always bring this up because I'm 49 years old, but the internet was new, but you know are there internet you know are there internet programs, college accredited programs out there for internet? I guess there's computer science, and is that part of internet? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't make any sense, but the point is that with this growth of this industry, that colleges and universities are really getting an idea that this could be an opportunity for them to start providing some skilled individuals out in the workforce.
Absolutely. I look forward to every school offering a cultivation program. It's very important. So my favorite question that I always love to ask is, what would be some big brother advice that you would give someone who's considering a career in cannabis? I think there's a big brother, big sister aspect to wanting people to know the reality of working in the industry and what it's like. Do you have any big brother advice?
Well, yeah, yes, I do. I'd recommend anyone that wants to get into the industry. First of all, make sure that your resume is up to date, and make sure that it the basics, no spelling mistakes, it's formatted correctly. I can't tell you how many people have sent me resumes that I just can't even send to a client. And so just understand the formatting, and there's organizations out there that can help you in formatting resumes. One that could be sent easily digitally, two that can be parsed into systems. That's real important to do. And then also make sure that if whatever the position that you're applying for, that it has the flow and it has the qualitative and quantitative aspects that really pop out on a page. Okay, this is becoming more competitive. So if there is a director of cultivations, we're getting multiple resumes for these. So what makes it easy for employers and also staffing agencies is making sure that you have maybe a summary at the top of things that apply to that position, not so general, but to that position. So you may, depending on what you're trying to apply for, you may have to change that a little bit and customize it. And that will make you be placed into a good pile, okay? If we're talking about paper, but into the good stack to at least review. Follow up. That's number 2. Always follow up. You send a resume, you follow up with the employer, okay? And what I call is get a story. And the story is, yes, I received your resume. We'll be making decisions, 3 weeks from now. Great. And you follow up at that point. But if you just hope to just send a resume and wait and sit by the phone, that's not going to work. So making sure that you're proactive in your search and understand that the hiring manager has multiple to look through, but they're going to look at the individual that are driven, that are focused, and that have the skill set to be able to be that next position that they're hiring for. Just because we're in the era of the time of Zoom, understand on how you need to present yourself professionally on a Zoom call. Make sure that your lighting is fine. Make sure that the vocals are fine. Make sure that you're dressed appropriately according to what the organization may culturally be. Okay, so you may have to do some research the organization, go to their website, see if you see any other additional information about the pros and cons of the organization. Go to LinkedIn, see about how many people are actually part of that organization, and you can do some name dropping of people that you've connected to and already reached out. You're Rob. I'm applying for the director of cultivation. You have any insights? Can you help me out? So there's in the age of the internet and the access to information that we have, just approach it in a particular smart and intelligent way, because it's going to give you that information, that heads up information. There's nothing that an employer likes better for you to be able to recite some information about what they've learned on the internet. Because what you're saying is that I have taken time to learn about your company. Okay, it is very important for me to understand what I'm getting into, and it's very important for you to learn about me and how I may be a match for your culture and for your environment at XYZ company. And by just doing some of those simple steps and taking those extra steps, puts you at that top of the level and top of the stack. And that's really where you want to be.
All fantastic Big Brother advice. I know I would be listening to you, and doing your homework on the company you're applying to is really important. I'm sure it's probably annoying to get applicants in and you're like, this doesn't even apply. You can tell the person sent out their resume to a whole bunch of people. I think, and this is my opinion, people get excited about working in the cannabis industry, and I've heard it time and time and again, I can't wait to work in the industry because I want to smoke weed all day. And so some people just don't get it. So this Big Brother advice is very helpful for those who are on the fence and think that is what you do all day when you work in cannabis. Yeah.
So, and people, let me just also actually, one other thing too is that I found that, and maybe this is a human type quality, but when you have a resume and you have experience, some approach it to the fact of that they would be lucky to have me type stance. Okay, so what you need to do, in my recommendation, is put your ego aside. This is not about ego. This is about skill set, and that you're able to do that job to the level that they want you to do the job. So, ego has no area for this type of industry, no matter what your background is, because you don't really need to show it through an ego. You'll be able to show it through your stories. You'll be able to show it through your successes, and if you're a salesperson, you'll be able to show it saying, I was given a quota of $1 million. I was able to get 100% of quota, and this is what I was selling. And these are the areas that I had to go through, or these types of mountains that I had to climb in order to do that. So it's showing grit, and it's showing that you're going to work hard. And if you can actually show that in an interview on how hard you're going to work and how smart you are in this particular business, whether sales or cultivation or extraction or even a C-level, those are things that the hiring manager will really appreciate. And really make note of.
Great advice. Where do you anticipate the market going in the next, we'll say, the remainder of the year? Where do you think we're going to be as an industry by the end of the year?
Well, now that we're should I say post-COVID or almost post-COVID? I'll have to ask Dr. Fauci on that one. But a lot of the licenses were stalled through this process. So we're finding a lot of the states are now moving forward on approving these licenses. Still waiting for New Jersey to, and Georgia paused theirs. So there was a lot of different states just kind of pause the entire process because it's a government process. And without government workers, there's no approval of licenses. Now with the Biden administration and the support for the cannabis industry, and also the Safe Banking Act that is supposed to go to Congress soon, this industry is just going to be growing. It's going to be growing significantly. I see the East Coast really booming up. I see additional acquisitions from the large MSOs. I see the individuals that have licenses that don't know how to run companies going out of business. So there's going to be a lot of movement going around in this entire industry, which makes it very positive for the employee marketplace and for the candidates that are looking for particular jobs. You just have to see how things kind of transpire and move and develop over these next couple months. And we're really excited here at Calyx Staffing for this, because now it's just each day it's more and more support for the industry. And with any kind of support from the governments and states, and this will enable for more companies to develop. And if there's more companies to develop, they're going to need staff. And in a highly competitive marketplace, that's why they go to staffing organizations, because typically you just can't put a job on Indeed and start getting your diamond. That's typically doesn't how it works.
It's better to pay now for finding that right match versus you've spent 3 to 6 months with an employee realizing that they're not a good fit, when you probably, if you had a staffing person who does this professionally, choose that person for you, might actually have worked out in your favor and you didn't waste your time and money.
Yes, and with Calyx Staffing, we have a Calyx Staffing guarantee, so it takes a lot of risk off the table. And then you're actually able to have an individual company that is able to qualify them and do all the background checks, and therefore they can run their business, and we can at least be able to present great candidates for them to hire. So far our rate is that all of our candidates have stayed, which is great.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. That's good news for Calyx Staffing. And so then that's a company that I'd want to listen to. So make sure you're listening out there to Calyx and visiting calyx.com, CALYX.com.
CalyxStaffing.com.
Calyx Staffing. Thank you. See, I'm supposed to be asking you that.
It's CALYX Staffing.com. And you can apply there, and you can get information on our positions and everything else that you may need, and contact us and give us a call or email us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for your time, and Calyx Staffing for your time as well. And I look forward to having you back as this industry grows. We're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. It's only about to get really busy over the next few years. Right. So thank you so much.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much for the time and for those wonderful questions. And hopefully this was of value to your listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Josh.
Great.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for watching our channel. Click here to watch another episode of Careers in Cannabis and more great shows and interviews. To find more cannabis industry reporting, insider stories, and to stay up to date on the latest trends, make sure you subscribe and keep up to date with the Trichomes Community app. Download it now and we'll see you there.